Wonderful. So now we have Hugh talking about permablitzing.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay. It keeps saying my microphone's not working.
Oh no, we can hear you very well now.
Okay, fine. Okay. Just tell me when you want me to start, sorry.
You can start. I already started the recording.
Oh, okay. I just to introduce myself really briefly, I'm involved in Permablitz London and one of the sort of organisers, and I've been involved in the early Permablitzes that we did when we started off and through to now. I just thought it might be worth starting off with a sort of bit of a popcorn as to what people think a Permablitz is for and what the purpose of it is, and you know how people see them and what they think is important about them.
Okay, so getting help with a project.
Yeah, I'm just going to write some of this stuff down because I just try and batch the responses and just see what the interest is.
So get lots of experience in different terrains. Connecting people and neighborhoods.
Yeah, learn from other people.
We could potentially swap seeds and plants at the same time.
Yeah, sharing tips and tricks on how to also, be better make the world a better place in a way.
Yeah. And I guess also if the idea is that you're implementing a permaculture design, then you'd also get experience about, if you didn't already have, like how a permaculture design is made, why it's made like that, kind of, how that would relate to the needs of the people and the space.
Great. I'll just throw maybe one or two things in. There's also getting a project off the ground. If you've got, often having a lot of people to do something on a day, get a project started, gets it off the ground. And I think also there are things that really can't be done by one person, or would be really difficult to do for one person. I think, some of sort of earthworks of maybe clearing quite a wide area of ground. You wouldn't be able to get one person on their own, would just take ages to do it, or it would be impossible. So I think there's a sort of there's a sort of practical aspect of actually having a project be implemented and implemented by a number of people, so a lot can be done on a day. There's the educational aspect that people have talked about finding out how permaculture design is done and implemented. Learning from other people, and I think there's a sort of a network connection aspect of connecting with people. Things like Emma said about the seed swaps and swapping plants. So I think all of those are really sort of do happen on permablitzes that I've been involved in. I think if you want to set up your own permablitzes, then there's probably a kind of question that needs to be asked kind of at the beginning of the process, which is how to get the network off the ground, how to get the permablitzes themselves off the ground, and how you organise for the mutual support. And there's different ways you could do that. In Permablitz London, we've followed a sort of classic almost model of permablitzes, which is also the way it's been done in Melbourne, for instance, where we've said, if you come on 2 or 3 permablitzes, we don't kind of like have a rigid number, but if you come on 2 or 3 permablitzes, then you're entitled to have a permaculture or permablitz design for your space, and a bunch of people will come for the day and install it. In fact, now it may even be more than the permablitz may be stretched over more than one day if there's quite a lot of work to do. So that's the sort of classic way in which we've done it. But then it might be as well that you're already in an existing network, and I don't know if people are in an existing local network where it's less about having to get the network up and running and more about consolidating that network that you're in. And it'd be interesting to know if people think that that there's a sort of network there that already is kind of doing mutual support for each other, and therefore it would be a bit weird to say to the people you're very involved in, oh well, you have to come along to 2 before we'll come to you, and all of that sort of thing. Or if you think that the network needs to be sort of started and motivated, which I think probably means more looking at the sort of more classic permaculture approach. Where are people at with that?
I can talk a bit about the town where Sheep and I live in the Netherlands. I have the feeling that there are lots of things actually already happening here, like initiatives, but then now it's also important to connect them with each other. That's indeed like they with some initiatives it's already happening that they help each other and cross-pollinate, but I, for example, recently found out that there's actually a zero waste group in this small town. Well, I've lived here for 4 years already and I never heard about it. And like these kind of things, even for people that are really into these subjects, that sometimes they don't appear, or they it's not that easy to find. So it's still about like how to connect all these different energies of people and into a network, basically.
Sure. I think our experience, because what we've been doing in London is try to grow a network of mutual support rather than be part of one already. we've found that people, that sort of mutual support, that reciprocity aspect has really excited people. It's, you know, people attracted to the idea that if they help on a couple, they'll get some themselves, or they'll get one themselves. And also, they'll have a design. Go again, you may be in a network of people that are already designing their own spaces, and they're not excited or interested by the idea of having a permaculture design done with them. Or one of the things that we do is the designs that we do, we at least want them overseen by somebody that's got a PDC, so that we kind of are clear that it is a real proper permaculture design that's going to make a real difference to the growing space.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about, because that kind of aspect of it was very interesting to me. Because in our community, we kind of do our version of permablitzes. We kind of exchange and we all go and help each other with different projects and jobs, and have that kind of feeling of like the big push, you know, you get a lot of people and you really see that something changed, and it's very motivating. But it's interesting for me how that works with the design. So say someone has gone to help with different permablitzes, and then they say, okay, I want one in my place, but I don't have a PDC. They can ask for someone to help them develop a design for their place?
What we've done, it's sort of evolved from a limited number of designers, and now it's quite a lot, where we now have a sort of a group of people will get together to do the design. And so there would normally be more than one person doing the design. We'll try and involve the host as well as much as we can. And so it's most of the designs we're doing now are group designs, but there's obviously somebody there that can supervise it, because there's been people from all sorts of different levels of experience with permaculture involved. And so saying that there'll be a PDC holder involved is a kind of formal way of ensuring that permaculture ethics are reflected in the design, that you know, the design is edible, sustainable, wildlife friendly, and all the things that we would expect of a forest garden or a permaculture design. So they're sort of more group designs, and it may be that within your networks, the group design is a sort of appropriate way to go about it. We've just done the forest garden course. We're all designing our own spaces, but we may also feel confident enough to help to design other people's as well.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of timescale do you usually have on the designs? So if a group's doing a design, how long do they usually give to prepare it?
It really varies, because there's a lot of there's a big educational aspect involved as well, I think, where people are learning how to do the design while they're doing the design. So I think that we sort of think about 3 months if there's a group design, but sometimes designs are done much faster than that. So I don't think there's a sort of, I think it just varies depending on what the situation is. It's sort of, and what the group is, and what the level of experience is, and how much people want to learn, and how much people already know how to start doing a design.
I guess from my point of view, I've never been involved in a permablitz, and I only heard about it on the forest gardening course. So I just imagined, you go to each of us places, and then it will be a bit of an exchange, or some people would just go and learn and not need help, such a lot of time to then to do it, but it takes such a long time to be even bigger. So I think if I was looking to do it locally, I'd probably just plan a sort of your garden you're going to sort of says what they want doing. Because yeah, it would take so long to plan a design for somebody. That's just the sort of thought I'm having.
Yes, doing the design can be a pressure, and having enough sort of people around that are confident about coordinating a group of people. The way that we do it is the way it's done. It's just that being in London, being outside of an existing network, a lot of what we do has got a lot of sort of educational aspects to it, about people learning about permaculture, people learning about what permaculture design is. That there's not a sort of pool of designers that we can just tap into. We're sort of developing that pool as we go along, and quickly some of them are longer enough as acceptable.
In a way, it's a good opportunity or something. It depends if the person's got time, though, that needs that help. But I think the course was really good that we did.
One of the sort of ways that we talk about permaculture is an edible garden makeover. So that also kind of gives a flavour that well, we're in London, so we're not doing sort of vast, sort of huge areas of land. We're generally doing gardens or allotments or schools or maybe some public spaces. So the design tends to be something that can be done implemented in 1 to 3 days. I mean, if you have a look at our website, you can see the things that we've done. The 3 have been important to really worth stressing that if the permablitz day itself is successful, that makes the permablitz, and that means that people come to other ones, people come to be part of the network. So I think this permaculture thing is saying you spend 80% of your time planning and 20% of your time implementing, and that's certainly, I think, important. That the day that you have a permaculture design, but you also spend a lot of time and effort designing the day itself and a timetable. You may not stick to it, but at least you're working around. You've got a very clear list of tasks that need to be done, and which needs to be done after the other, and which task can be done sort of independently of everything else. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into the day. I think also having clear roles for the people that are on the permablitz itself. So there'll be the host, whose space it is, and obviously they have to make sure that the plants and the materials are there, so that they can be done, and that that can be a challenge. So that sort of obviously needs to happen. That the materials are there to actually do the permablitz. That there are people that are facilitating the permablitz, and that those are the people that are explaining the design. They're the people that are making sure that the jobs are being done and that they're being done in the right order, and that the timetable is being stuck to as much as can be done. And that they're ensuring that there's space for the educational aspect, that we do the mini workshops where you might break for 5 minutes or 20 minutes to explain a particular task, because people may come along to permablitz and things that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate, people may find them a bit daunting. So people taking plants out of pots, they think, oh, I'm going to break them, I'm going to break the roots, and just explaining how you would plant something from a pot. We would spend 5 or 10 minutes explaining how to do that and demonstrating that, and the facilitator would normally be doing that. The facilitator will be doing no work. They'll be purely facilitating. And there is a real temptation to get involved in actually doing things because it's just really attractive and you really want to get your hands dirty and really want to do things. But actually, the less the facilitator does, usually the better, because they're making sure that everybody else is busy. And then the other aspect is the educational aspect of the mini workshops, and then explaining the design to the people that come along. And so usually what will happen is if people come along, we won't explain the design right at the beginning of the day because people may come at different times. We'll explain the design maybe mid-morning, or actually quite often at lunchtime, shortly after lunch. But we'll start the day off with lots of tasks that people can just get stuck into quite quickly. And if people come along a bit later than other people, they can just see that there's activity and that there's a whole bunch of busy bees doing stuff. And that makes it attractive.
It sounds like a really nice way to get people involved that aren't familiar with it. It sounds really accessible and welcoming. It's nice.
Yeah, I think that's the way we do it. That's not the way it has to be done. Because, as I say, I think if you've got an existing network, then it might be done differently. I think, the point of a permablitz is to have a kind of network of mutual support. How that's done varies between different networks and people.
I don't think that here in the Netherlands a permablitz exists already. At least I haven't heard of it before. But I'm really curious about setting something up in this town. So yeah, I think this is really nice and valuable information also to how to get things started and what's to take into account.
Yeah. And
yeah, it's super
have a look
useful.
at the website. And then just the last thing as well is when you actually have the permablitz, know when the next one is, or preferably know when the next two are, so that you can say at the end of that day, we'll be doing another one at X place in 2 weeks' time or something like that, because then it just means that the sort of momentum is kept going, particularly when you first set it up.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. That's really useful information. I think just having that clarity of the roles is also really useful, because I've done a lot of projects here. We have youth groups coming to our community. So we have scout groups and some Steiner school groups coming and doing a residential youth project. And yeah, I've noticed the same thing I end up being the host and the facilitator. And trying to work at the same time, which obviously is not very practical. So I think that's very useful, having the roles defined and being clear that as the facilitator you're really supporting everyone and supporting the process, Because yeah, sometimes it is frustrating. You just want to get stuck in and do something and kind of enjoy working. And it's something I didn't appreciate at the beginning, actually. It's really a lot of work to kind of organize people and to give everyone something meaningful to do. Like when, you know, people say, oh, it's great, you've got like 30 scouts coming or 15 scouts coming. But actually it takes so much work in advance to prepare and to think about, you know, because we have so much work here in terms of like weeding. Like they could just spend all year, like 30 of them weeding, and it wouldn't be finished. But obviously that's not a satisfying and a useful thing from their perspective. You know, that's not educating them and doing something that has a kind of visual result. And I think that's so important, isn't it? Kind of having something where you can see that we've made a big difference, and that it's something, you know, people can try a lot of different things, not just something repetitive. And kind of it being, yeah, something interesting and useful and learning experience, rather than kind of having just a lot of like unpaid field workers or something to do some jobs. So yeah, I think it's something that's really worth thinking about. And yeah, it's interesting really to see how you're doing it. And I'd really love, yeah, next time I'm in the UK to come and join you and see how you organize them.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Sophie. And then the other thing which I forgot about, which is actually really, really easy to forget about, is the facilitator also has to keep an eye on the health and safety aspect.
Yeah.
And that, if, you know, obviously that's really important. We don't use any power tools on our blitzes, for instance, just as a way of trying to keep things reined in. But the facilitator has to kind of be aware of what everyone else is doing.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for that, Hugh. That was really interesting to be able to, yeah, hear your experience and get more into that topic. And yeah, it seems like it's inspired all of us to think about how we can bring more blitzing into our lives, blitzing.
And it'll be good to have a look at some of your projects on the website. I'll have a look, get some ideas.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've got 25 minutes left. So yeah, maybe have about 20 minutes for your session, Emma, and then we'll have 5 minutes at the end for a checkout. Does that sound good? Cool. Okay, so now Emma is going to talk to us about herbaceous, or talk with us about herbaceous perennials.
I will do a screen share because I got a little some slides there. Okay, so I thought I'd talk about some herbaceous perennials. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Good. And I thought it might be useful to some people, you know, doing the forest gardening course, as well as anyone else who's interested. Because we've been doing some planning. For me, I'd got to looking at shrubs and trees, but have to move on to the sort of ground cover and stuff. So also thinking about trying to use perennial plants instead of annuals, because they'll come up each year, it means less work, and I think maybe they don't use as many nutrients and resources as annuals in regard to sort of time and what they use from the soil. I'm not sure of that though. If anyone wants to chip in at any point, then go for it. And so what is a herbaceous perennial? Well, herbaceous means that the stems will die back each year, but actually the plant's still alive and the roots are still there underneath the ground. The other option could be that the plant was woody, which would mean it would have woody material and that the stem will thicken and sort of get wider and firmer as it develops. and the tissue will turn from being a sort of green, flexible tissue to woody tissue, but herbaceous perennials tend to remain sort of non-woody. Perennial means that the lifespan's more than a couple of years. So you can have annual, which means that its lifespan will be complete in one sort of growing season or 1 year. And there's ephemeral, which is a lot of the weeds. They might have several life cycles. So it will be a seed, and then it will become a plant, and then it will set flowers and produce more seeds, and then they'll drop, and it will have another couple of life cycles in 1 year, so like a few generations. And then you've got biennials, but the perennial basically is that it will keep coming back, but they don't necessarily last forever, and I think they've got different sort of lifespans. Most of the ones I've chosen, I think, are herbaceous, so they're not evergreen. So there will be gaps in the garden over the sort of winter season, but then we could consider planting up winter salads on that if it's sunny enough. And herbaceous perennials we can propagate by seed, softwood and semi-ripe cuttings, so I thought that would be a nice thing to do another time. And then in the dormant season they can be divided by basically you just sort of put the spade into the soil and you can part the roots and produce more plants. So I picked some that I'm thinking of having in the forest garden, and I tried to pick ones that will grow in some shade, because often we grow in trees and shrubs, and that's going to cast shadows in a sort of forest environment. I tried to pick ones that haven't got toxic hazard warnings, and I think some of these are medicinal, but I don't know much about medicinal stuff at the moment, but I'd really like to know more. So I'm not really going to talk around the medicinal bits. Anyhow, so the first one is Japanese parsley, or mitsuba, and that's its Latin name, Cryptotaenia japonica, and I found out that means crypto means hidden, and the tania bit means band, and it's because there are sort of hidden bands of oils, I think, within the seed, and it means it's of Japan, japonica, and it's in the Umbellifer family, which has now been called the Apiaceae family, and it's a really big family, and lots of plants with those big umbellifer, like umbrella-like flowers. There's loads of useful ones in that we can use, but also we have to be a bit careful with the idea of them, because there are quite a lot that can be toxic to us. So Japanese parsley, I've got some seeds, I've not grown it yet. Need to do that, and there's loads of parts of it that are edible. Tastes like parsley and celery, and we can use it in things like salads, stews. I think the stems you can sort of blanch or soften and put in recipes. They're meant to be a sort of alternative to celery. And I'm not sure if you can eat the seeds. One website I used didn't mention it, and Plants for a Future says you can. So I imagine
usually the seeds are medicinal.
Okay.
In that family. Yeah, so like you mentioned with the oil, a lot of the time there's a medicinal oil in the seeds of that family, and they're known to be culminative, which means that they help digestion. So a lot of the time you can make an infusion from them if you have like indigestion, or if you have gas or anything like that, and they're very soothing to the digestive system.
Okay, that's good. And so, you know, with infusions, like, how do you do this? Is it different for different plants, or does it depend on what part of the plant you're using, whether it's the seeds or the leaves or the flowers?
Yeah, usually the pattern is depending on the part of the plant. So if you've got flowers, you usually want to do a gentle infusion. So you either want to put them in, you can do a cold water infusion where you just put something in cold water. What you want to be there are sun infusions, but you have to be careful with them if you're in a very hot place or you leave them for a long time about bacteria growing. So you can actually do cold infusions in a cold room or in the fridge in summer overnight. So you put whatever plant material, usually leaves or flowers, in water, submerged in the water, and you leave it overnight in the fridge. Or yeah, you can put it in a warm or hot water like you would for a tea, and then leave that for some time. And then if you're doing something from seeds or roots, you can also make like just a soaking infusion, or you can make a deeper infusion, but then it becomes like a concoction, which is where you kind of cook it down. So you make something a bit more like a soup. And that's because the medicinal elements in the seeds or the roots are kind of deeper in the structure, and it helps to release them.
Wow, there's loads of options then, that's cool. And so with these cold infusions, would you take the leaves out? Like with a tea, you might keep them in, mightn't you? But what about with the cold ones, or does it depend what you're wanting?
Depends what you want. So for example, I make cold infusion from Melissa, from lemon balm. And in that case, you can, soak it, and then the leaves are softened and you can just chew them if they're in there. Or you can take them out if it bothers you. Sometimes, like with the flowers, if you do like an elderflower infusion, if you just put the little actual flowers and you get rid of all the stalks, then it can be really beautiful because you have all these like tiny little flowers floating in the top of your infusion. And that's quite nice. The same with borage. You can leave the flowers floating in there and it's pretty.
And there's probably, we've got borage in the garden at the moment, so we could try that. It's a good time to give it a go.
Yep.
Never made an infusion.
Yeah, no, it's really easy. Just, and mint as well. Like all the things that you might want, it's kind of cooling and that easily give out their substance. Then you can try them as a cold infusion. Even some roots like licorice, you can do cold infusions from licorice sticks and things like that. But some other things like, dried rose hips or things like that, you might need to put them in warm water or to break them up a bit to kind of break down the hard fibrous structure of them.
Okay. I think one of the plants on this list, so like you say, it depends on whether you use hot or cold water, depending on how the plant might react. I can't remember which one it is. We might know when we get to it, but I think the flavour can go if you use hot water, so it recommends if you're cooking it only to use it for a short while. So I guess you just have to work with the plant that you're using. Okay, so I'm not actually sure if this Japanese parsley, it might be evergreen, saying I'm doing herbaceous perennials, but that's fine. And also it can grow in the shade, so I don't even think it needs a woodland edge. If you wanted to grow it, it can grow in deep shade.
One safety thing just to add, because we were speaking about cold infusions. Some things you can't do them in a cold infusion. So for example, I think it might be horsetail, which you can have in like a tea because you've heated it, but some things are kind of toxic, and if you don't put them in a hot water, then it can be a problem. So it's good usually before experimenting with more unusual plants. Like if it's a culinary herb and you usually eat it, then it's kind of safe. So like most of the Lamiaceae family, like sages and mints and things are fine. But some other plants, if you're not sure, it's good, I think, to check a herbal book before chewing them raw, because you might be able to have them in a tea or cooked, but raw they might not be safe.
Yeah, that's good. There's so much to know, isn't there?
Yeah.
The next one I was going to talk about is Sweet Sicily. So I found out about this one earlier this year, and I bought it along with a few other seeds, and I've not sown it yet. And recently I went to a garden and they had it there, and oh wow, it's so delicious. It's a sort of aniseedy sweet flavour. The leaves are lovely. I'm not sure if they get more bitter as they age, but I think with this one, you can put it down and it might produce more leaves. But the Latin, or the scientific name's Myrus odorata, which means it smells of myrrh. I don't know what myrrh smells like, but that's what it means. And again, it's in the Apiaceae family, and you can use the leaves and the roots, the seeds, and it's good to use with fruit. So if you've got an acidic fruit like rhubarb, you can use specifically, it has some sort of reaction to make it taste less sort of, I guess, astringent. The word.
It helps to break down the oxalic acid as well that's in the rhubarb.
Is there something else as well? I think Rakesh mentioned it, that there are 2 things that you can use with the rhubarb. I was going to look, but I didn't have time.
Yeah, I don't remember the other one that he said, but yeah, for sure that one helps to break down, the sweet cicely breaks down the oxalic acid.
And the roots, you can cook them, I think they're meant to taste a bit like parsnip, and then the seeds you can use as a salad or a snack. And interesting fact, so Will quite likes doing woodwork, and you can use the leaves to polish, get a good polish on wood. It specifically mentions oak, so I thought that was interesting. If anyone needs their furniture polished, grow some sweet cicely. Has anyone tried sweet cicely, or is anybody growing it? Because that's all I really know about it.
No, I'm not growing it yet, but it's one I'd really like to grow actually.
Yeah. Cool, well, we can grow it at the same time.
Yeah, I just have to find some seeds.
Yeah, I've got some spare seeds. I'm not going to use them all, so I could send them you if you want, because there's only so many plants I'm going to need, and then once they set their own seeds, so if you want any, I can send them over. Or I've got some resources at the end which shows them available, where you can get them from.
Wonderful.
Lovage as well. So Levisticum officinale, which officinale often means that it used to be used in medicinal sort of, got medicinal properties, and traditionally that's how it was used, and that's where if you see the word officinale, it may have medicinal properties. Celery flavoured, and it's meant to have a meaty or a yeasty taste, so I imagine that's quite good if you're wanting to get those flavours and you're vegan or vegetarian. It's got edible stems, leaves, and the roots are meant to be quite good when they're younger, and also the seeds are edible, and you can use it in all sorts of different cooking, and I think making a sort of powdered flavouring out of it. It does grow quite tall, up to a couple of metres, and yeah, this is the one I think if you put it back you get younger, fresher leaves. That's all I've got to say about lovage. Does anyone else have anything about it?
Again, in terms of, yeah, medicinal, like you said, the officinale means that it was used by the apothecaries. I think that's one is another digestive and culminative. So a lot of them in that family, in the Apiaceae family, have those properties. So yeah, it's another one that's good for the digestion, and it's cooling.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of doing the holistic course as well that Rakesh was talking about. So I wonder if we go over that sort of thing in it, maybe what we can grow for medicinal uses. This one I do have in the garden already, and it really spreads. It's a great plant for a good shady situation. The flowers smell absolutely beautiful. You can smell them from, I mean, it's in a sort of corner of the garden in a really shady patch under some shrubs, and you can smell it when you come out the front door, and that's several metres away. They taste really nice, the flowers. They've got a sort of sweet scent to them, and you can use them to infuse hot and cold drinks, and use them in salads, and the leaves in salads. I haven't tried the leaves. I didn't know you could eat the leaves until I prepared this, but meant to be like fresh cut hay of grass, and it's a nice early flowering one, so for a lot of fruits that might flower in April or May, sweet woodruff could be good. In a book that I've got, it says it used to be used I don't know how many years ago, as a sort of freshener. Maybe people still do it to hang in their houses. And you can get dyes from the different parts of the plant. So depending on the part of the plant, you can get a red dye or a greyish green dye. And because even though it's a mat forming plant, it doesn't grow really thickly. And so you could potentially grow bulbs through it. And that's all I've got to say on sweet woodruff. Oh no, hang on, I've got one funny thing. So I've got this book called Flora Britannica, and I had a little look in it, and it says, during Georgian times, they were placed in the cases of pocket watches, the leaves, so that the fragrance could be inhaled whenever telling the time. So that made me laugh. I thought that was really funny. And the next plant that I'm going to speak about is, I think this might be one of the last ones actually, is wild bergamot, also known as mint-leaved bergamot, Monarda fistulosa. And that's in, is this the family you were speaking about, Sophie, the Lamiaceae family? Is that mint and like Lamium?
Yeah, so Lamiaceae, this is the family, yeah, mint, sage, all these ones that have usually the square stem and the opposite leaves, yeah, in pairs.
With really sort of strongly scented leaves. So what's the other one? Like salvias, they're in the same family, aren't they, I think?
Yeah, exactly,
and
yeah.
A lot of these are really good wildlife plants. Their flowers are usually quite popular or good for the wildlife, and so they can be used in teas, but I think they're quite strongly flavoured, and so if you're putting them raw in a salad, maybe you want to use them sparingly. But I think in cooked foods, if you were to put them in stews and soups, they might be really tasty. A late summer flowering one, so the top right picture at the moment, I totally forgot I got one in the garden because I saw a plant come up the other day and I thought, oh, I don't know what that is, and it looks just like that, and then I remembered I did get one towards the end of last year. That's exciting. And the purpley sort of lilac one is the wild bergamot, but then this one at the bottom right is a really stunning one. I'm not sure if it's classed as a cultivated one or it's just a different sort of naturally occurring one, but I think you use it in the same way for teas and in some cooking, but that these ones do prefer a little bit more sunlight, or they could grow on the very edge of a guild in a forest garden. Has anyone got anything else to say? Does anyone grow this plant or eat it?
I haven't, I've tried growing it, but my seeds didn't germinate, so I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
But I think bergamot, this is what, you know, the Earl Grey tea is flavoured with. It has that
yeah.
very strong flavour that makes the Earl Grey tea. But you can also, yeah, make a tea, an infusion, obviously, without the black tea in there. And yeah, like you said, it's amazing wildlife plant, all of that family.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, are great for wildlife. A lot of them are medicinal. A lot of them you can, yeah, use as a culinary herb. Yeah, it's one of my favorite families of plants.
Yeah, and they really I put in a the dead nettle, Lamium something, and that's really spread, and that's so good for a shady spot, a really low growing ground cover, and I think it's in flower for quite a lot of the year as well, so that's really handy.
Yeah, I love that one. We've got red dead nettle that's just volunteered everywhere in our garden.
Yeah.
It tends to, I don't know what it's like in England because I wasn't really noticing that when I used to live there, but here in Bulgaria it comes up very early. And looking in Martin Crawford's book at all the flowers, I think it's, yeah, one of the earliest ones. So it's very good as a pollinator around the fruit trees. But ours tends to die down and then other plants come through.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like quite a thick blanket, you know, with loads and loads of ground bees kind of really happy collecting there in the early spring. And then, yeah, it tends to die down. Have you got the ones that are still growing and flowering through the year? Or?
Well, I think I just put it in last year, and I'm not sure I really know how long it flowers for, because I saw on the Plants for a Future website, it quoted that most months of the year that it was in flower, so I'm going to keep an eye on it and see what it does. We've got a one with whiter leaves, and I think it's got pink flowers, and I've got another one, but it's really bad. I can't remember what colour flowers it is. I looked at it the other day and thought, oh wow, that's really spreading, but there was a lot of leaf spread. But I'll have a look and see.
Yeah, it might have a different habit if you've got it kind of in your garden as a decorative plant, and something you've planted and you're watering and taking care of, because ours is kind of like appeared en masse on a big area. So yeah, it kind of has a bit of a different habit here, being a different climate.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite a damp patch underneath the apple tree. I've not really watered it, paid much attention to it. I kind of forgot about it really, and then just thought, whoa, that's got really big. But Will's dad said that he'd put some in, and Will's mum wasn't too chuffed about it because it's really spread, and it does really go for it, I think, if it's happy. But it's a good ground cover then.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Emma. That was really nice presentation.
I don't know what time it is, but I've just realised that there's meadowsweet. I have no idea what time it is because I've only got the screen up.
So we've got 3 minutes left, so maybe it's good to go for a checkout now.
Yeah, definitely. We can do that next time. All right, thank you. I'll stop screen sharing.
But yeah, that was lovely, and would be great, yeah, if you want to continue next time.
Cool.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left, so yeah, we can do a checkout. Let's see how many people we're here now. Okay, so there's 5 of us. Yeah, so just...
Or do we need to record a checkout as well?
As you wish. Yeah, maybe people have something to say about Roy's session or anything else that can be interesting to share. So yeah, anything that you'd like to share at the end of this nice evening. Briefly, and we've got a couple of minutes. So starting with Sheep, maybe, followed by Emma.
Let's see. I think all the presentations had like enduring merit in it. Some are like a bit more closer to my interest than others. So I think, like the perennials is nice. Not sure if I'm gonna do it this year, but it's nice to take notice. And there's like the English names we're not familiar, but I looked them up and we'll see where we end. Looking forward to the Permablitz and maybe doing some grafting once, because there's so many people talking about it, but maybe it's nice to actually do something with it in a practical way. And there was also the first one, the Ikigaru. I think it was nice. Just read about it like months ago. Thought like, yeah, this is nice. And then it comes as a presentation here. So I think it's awesome. Thank you all.
Wonderful. So Emma, followed by Zoe.
I just saw Zoe's comment on guerrilla grafting. Yeah, I like that idea. And I'd like to have a go at doing that locally. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice variety of things, just a really interesting to hear about. The blitzes, I'd like to get involved with some of that. Maybe have a look at doing one locally. And yeah, I like the Ikigai stuff. And yeah, it was all really interesting. Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Wonderful. So Zoe, followed by Hugh.
Yeah, I enjoyed all the sessions actually. I really like also the Ikigai from more in the beginning. It's something that I've been busy with this past months, but not like consciously with Ikigai, but yeah, it's something that's in my head. And yeah, the grafting is really now something I really want to do. I heard so many things about it, and I'm like, okay, I really need some hands-on experience. So sheep, we should go career crafting down sometime. And
While permablitzing in someone's
well,
garden. Yes.
yeah, and the Permablitz, I really want to start it as well. And the perennial herbs, yeah, it just makes me realize that my plant knowledge still sucks a lot, and I really need to work on that as well. So I'm really looking forward to also the plant idea sessions that we will organize with some permaculture.
Yay.
So yeah, but yeah, lovely. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, Hugh?
Yeah, nice variety of presentations. Unfortunately, I missed Roy's, but I really enjoyed everything else. And yeah, I'd quite like to give crafting a go too. So see what happens next year.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, yeah, everything was really interesting. It was really lovely spending this time together with you guys. Yeah, this evening was really nice, like a kind of small circle, like just some plant nerds kind of hanging out and having a chat, you know. Plant botanical addicts anonymous or something, you know. My name's Sophie and I'm a plant addict. But yeah, really. Yeah, lots of interesting things and a lot to think about. Yeah, I was thinking about what Roy talked about in relation to prana, where looking at your kind of the different things that feed you, which I think Rakesh is going to talk about. So looking at the physical and the spiritual. And yeah, he's going to talk about that in the next learning day. So that will be interesting. And yeah, as Zoe mentioned, we've got in the next learning day also the first of the plant learning circle sessions. So yeah, if any of you want to join that and want to prepare, we're going to do the Brassicaceae family, so the mustard family. So yeah, you can all be looking out for Brassicaceae around you, thinking about them, tuning into them.
That's only from the Roots and Permaculture network.
Yeah, I think, but everyone in here actually is already done a course, so
yeah,
they
but
can do.
Maybe watching this back.
Yeah, this is useful to say. Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, we're like in the reality of this circle and in the reality of the bigger circle. So yeah, some things, yeah, are here. Some things are in the alumni of Roots and Permaculture courses. Yeah, but yeah, that will be nice also if you want to continue in the next Roots and Resilience, Emma, to speak about the perennial plants. It's always a nice thing, you know, to see other people's experiences, what they've got growing, and share ideas. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you all so much for coming and sharing, and thank you, Zoe, for helping us with your account, being such a great host, helping me with the slides. It's been really nice because I'm here in a field with my phone, and yeah, a bit funny with the technology. So yeah, have a lovely evening, everybody, and yeah, see you soon.
See you soon. Have a good evening. Bye.
See you soon. You.
Love.
Love.
Much love.
Bye.
And one more thing I thought of, maybe, yeah, Emma, if you want to, and I'll ask Roy to share the presentations in the Facebook group to put a link to them if you want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So people can look at them.